Virtual space, the final frontier. Can you replace my face with a real nice avatar? Real nice avatar. That's what I said. Virtual space, the final frontier. Can you replace my face with a real trick avatar? Hey, you weren't supposed to see that. Or were you? Well, hello. Can everybody hear me? As I said, I'm Joel Savell. This is my first time doing anything like this, so please bear with me. I'm very nervous. Uh, I Chris asked me to do this a few weeks ago, and I was very honored. Um, I could not pass up this opportunity. My hair looks funny. Okay. I am a musician. I'm also a 3D artist. I've been working in the Metaverse on a VR project called Cry of Athena. I have many years of gigging experience on the front lines as a rock musician. I played in a family band with my brothers for many years. Chris recognized that I have a unique perspective and that I've been on both sides, both as a musician, pre-metaverse, pre-internet even, and I'm also immersed in VR, working on a project right now. So yeah, this is very exciting. My topic for today is equality for musicians in the metaverse. And I think the first thing that I want to touch on is image. So, in the traditional music industry model, image is very important. There's always been very good looking pop stars, classically beautiful, traditionally beautiful. I, um, I think that as a musician, some of these things are universally true. I think with the advent of MTV and when music videos came to the forefront, image became even more important. So people had to be good looking for the most part. If they weren't totally good looking in the traditional sense, in the mainstream sense, then they at least needed to have some kind of unique, memorable look to them. Maybe cute ugly, or ugly might be an offensive term, but I think you get the gist of what I'm talking about. We could call this beautyism, lookism, um, ageism too. I mean, I'm certainly no spring chicken. Uh, there are plenty of middle-aged and elderly pop stars on the forefront today, but I would say by and large, they got their big break when they were young and smooth. It's not age is not just about looks either. Some people are late bloomers, but yet there's this assumption that someone can't develop skill or talent past a certain age. I mean that seems like the definition of ageism to me. Like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Um, Racism. I'm a white man, middle class. I can't really speak to racism. I can't speak for marginalized groups. But I do have an honest question. Is it just me, or does it seem that Asian Americans are a tad underrepresented underrepresented in popular music, at least compared to the demographic I've experienced living in California most of my life? I mean, I can really only think of a few Asian American super successful pop stars. I somewhat related. I recently learned about a study involving orchestral music auditions, auditioning for orchestral players, oboe and violin and whatnot. And in this study, they found that holding blind auditions, in other words, a performer behind a curtain, actually did increase the diversity in the musicians that passed the audition. So there does seem to be a bias when it comes to physical appearance, whether that bias is conscious or subconscious. I mean, I'm not saying that the traditionally beautiful pop stars aren't talented. They absolutely are very talented and have worked very hard to develop their craft and get to where they are. But if you're gauging the potential for success between two equally talented performers, I would say most of the time the preference would go to the more physically attractive of the two. And in life in general, I mean, there's even scientific evidence that we're hardwired to favor people of a certain look. They even did a study on babies that babies will actually stare longer at a traditionally attractive face than someone who's plain or perhaps even unattractive. I mean, not always. As I mentioned before, if a star isn't really ridiculously good looking, that they will still most likely, if they're in the public eye a lot, they're going to have a distinctive, memorable look and kind of a physical magnetism. Like I'm thinking of like Iggy Pop or Mick Jagger. There's also confidence and stage presence that goes along with having certain lifelong advantages. Now, I certainly don't look like Adam Levine. I might make a possible Ed Sheeran. So there's that. But to be fair, Ed Sheeran might be the most charming dude on the planet. Seriously, he's not my go-to style of music, but just listening to him talk even makes me swoon. My wife would probably get a chuckle out of that. And yeah, she's a big Ed Sheeran fan. Elton John didn't exactly look like a movie star leading man when he was young, but he was still a decent looking guy. But he also took it a step further with the outrageous, outlandish costumes. Same with his inspiration, Liberace. When people go to a Liberace concert, they want to see this larger than life persona that he created, which may or may not represent the real him. Taking it, moving further in time, forward in time, Kiss is the classic hard rock example. Uh, the makeup and costumes that they wear, they're almost like avatars. You could say that they're physical avatars. Same with Guar. I don't know if people are familiar with Guar, but they're pretty outrageous. They have these crazy alien costumes and a somewhat comedic sci-fi backstory to go along with it. I mean, what I'm getting at is the talented musicians who are perhaps self-conscious about their looks or who have stage fright, they can wear a disguise as well. I mean, look at Buckethead. Buckethead is a fantastic guitar player, one of the best ever, seriously. Uh, but he suffers from stage fright, and that's why he started wearing the plastic mat, the weird white mask, and the Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket on his head. When I first saw him, I thought he was just some weird guy that wore a bucket on his head. So the image struck me first before I actually heard him play. Taking it a step even further into the animated world, the world's first animated pop group, as far as I know, was the Archies with their hit Sugar Sugar. Sugar Sugar, dun, 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 dun. Oh, honey, honey. Uh, Fast forward to the 90s, you had Gorillaz with their hit song Clint Eastwood. They were a cartoon animated band. Nowadays, one of my young coworkers at my day job listens to a group called KDA, which is a virtual band um, with actually pretty well known K pop musicians, but their avatars look nothing like their real life appearance. And it's actually based, their avatars are based on League of Legends characters. So with an avatar, you can be anything you want or anything the music studio wants. Your musical pop star avatar can have superpowers, can be any gender or genderless. You notice my singing avatar for this intro was female. So for the transgender community, that that has implications. If we're talking about the future of live performance as it relates to the metaverse, you can look no further than the Fox show Alter Ego. Um, Also, Celeste talked about it during the panel before my presentation. It's exciting having the concept of a digital venue where bands can perform in the metaverse as avatars, and they can look like anything that their imagination and a 3D artist can devise. As I mentioned before, I played in a rock band for many years. The band was led by my brother Tom. The band was called Superior Olive. I played bass and sang sometimes. But now my brother Tom, he's tremendously charismatic and enormously talented. And I always felt like I was kind of in his shadow. I never really had that outgoing charisma. And he's got narrower hips than me, a little bit taller. He's got dark hair. You know, all these things can get inside my head. But in VR, the the first time I played the game that I'm working on called Cry of Athena, the first time I played it at a playtest, I got to fight one of my creations, an orc. Now in VR, I became like this fighting machine. I was like a warrior. I was swinging my arms and jumping around, and I mean, I was fierce. I mean, I almost hurt poor Carolyn. She had to jump out of the way before I smacked her in the head accidentally. Uh, and these are things that I would never do in real life. But in VR, it's really like you're in a different world and you've got a brand new persona. So I'm wondering if some of that aggression, not aggression, but I would say that confidence could carry through for a musical performer playing as an avatar in VR.